Evening, everyone. Welcome to the latest edition of Inside LP. It's a live discussion of what's been happening around Laughing Places. We keep you informed on all the things within the Disney Company umbrella. I'm the site's co-founder, Rebecca Mosley, and we have our CEO and the most passionate Disney fan I know, Benji
Wow.
Breitbart. I'm serious. It's like one of those things where Laughing Place was this nice little, mostly theme park oriented, some Disney news. And then you were like, well, but did you know this about Disney? Did you know that about Disney? Next thing we know, we're talking Marvel. They buy Marvel. We're talking Marvel, Star Wars, all this just got so much bigger. So yeah, it's fun.
Governmental oversight districts and
We became season ticket holders of the Angels for a while. Good
yeah,
year to do it too.
yeah, the last good year to do it.
But we're here to talk about the latest. And the first item we're going to talk about, Ben, you're going to have to educate me because this is an aspect of fandom I'm not that well versed in, and that would be X-Men 97.
Yeah, so this is exciting. I think of people of my generation. It's coming to Disney Plus March 20th. And it is basically an extension of the X-Men the animated series. And if you got into if you got into comics, in general, it was this X-Men anime series that a lot of people in my generation got into it through. It aired on Fox. It was serial storytelling, so it got you sort of into that comic book mentality that there was an issue that would lead into another issue that would lead to another issue. If you actually talk to a lot of the directors and writers of Marvel shows and movies, this is their Marvel origin story, how they got into it, and to kind of go back to that classic Saban style animation is really exciting. And it's you can't go home again a lot of times with these shows, but there's something about that X-Men theme that people get really excited when they hear. And this was my introduction to the X-Men. This probably paved the way for the X-Men movies to actually be successful because it had a ground. And they're really leaning into the fact that this is retro. I mean, you can see in the poster there, X-Men 90. It has like VHS covers.
I
And,
loved that. By the
and
way, Gio's popping in and saying, I'm going to need to revisit the rest of the old series again before this starts. Can't wait for it. Now, is there an easy place for people to find the series if they want to catch it before March 20th?
Yeah, there's a streaming service out there called Disney Plus that you can watch the classic. They actually, when they first debuted, it was out of order, so they went back and made it the work in order. I'm not going to say it holds up, but so in many ways, to see the trailer today, I was like, oh, they did it, but they did it better, like in a more sort of fully animated. I mean, it was a Saturday morning cartoon, so there was a lot of sort of just mouth moving stuff, but
Gotcha.
the storyline, the plotting, the Phoenix Saga, the Dark Phoenix Saga, all of that is still top notch. And there's a lot of great behind the scenes stories about the show. How if you watch the opening credits, there's like a character that never appeared in the show because like the people who made the animation overseas like got confused about something, so it's just this random character that doesn't even exist. But it's kind of like Scooby. It's like Scooby-Doo for that generation, where it's like,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, we know it's not the highest form of animation, but it's introduced them to a certain style that really stuck with them. And for my folks, this is, and I think a lot of people of my generation, we grew up with DuckTales, which was like kind of the introduction to sort of action adventure cartoons for us. And then we graduated to X-Men the Animated Series, which had a little bit more depth to it. Obviously, it had the sort of bigotry of mutants versus humans, and so it was very influential, and I'm really excited. And if you're taking the sort of more corporate view of this, as we often do, Disney and Marvel Animation has already done What If, but this is really trying to show they can do other animation styles and kind of building that out as they may retreat from live action series on Disney Plus. It gives them an avenue to have animated series on Disney Plus. So hopefully it's successful. Hopefully it's good. And we'll know March 20th. It sounds like they're not just doing a dump, like a mass binge release. Seems like this may be weekly, and we don't have all the details yet. But
Would that be? Do you prefer that as like a consumer? Do you prefer a weekly drop, or do you like it when it all just kind of is dumped at once?
I mean, I guess it depends on the show. But for a show like this, where I grew up watching every week,
Yeah.
and it feels like the right way. I don't. You almost want to savor it. I'm not a huge fan of the binge release for water cooler shows.
Yeah,
And I
me
feel
either.
like there's, it's one thing if it's like a Nat Geo docuseries about whales or something, and you're
Mhm.
not going to go like, oh my gosh. I mean, not that it's not great, but it's not,
Right.
water cooler stuff.
There
But I
isn't like a
feel like for
huge
these,
plot twist or plot point that you're worried you'll spoil by
right,
talking, because that's the hard part I have when something gets dumped, is I don't know were my friends able to sit down and watch, all six hours. I don't want to necessarily, share with them something that they would have enjoyed kind of experiencing themselves within the way the creatives intended. I, being a Marvel casual, is there my main Disney passion is the parks. Is there a place within Avengers Campus if this is popular? Is that something they could, in the way we've seen some of the Marvel Disney Plus characters kind of pop up there? Is that a dynamic that would fit, do you think, within that space?
so unlike Galaxy's Edge, where it's, they've loosened it a little bit, but it was like, they're very particular. Avengers Campus doesn't take place in the MCU. It doesn't take place in any other universe. So sure, I mean, they could have anyone from anywhere show up in Avengers Campus, and it's not, breaking canon like Galaxy's Edge kind of has that sort
Okay.
of. So they could. I don't. This is definitely not. Well, I should say, this is a different version of the X-Men than you are used to if you just grew up with the movies. This is definitely a more colorful, more cartoony. It's definitely they leaned into the John Byrne sort of multicultural aspect, so everyone's just from different countries, which is kind of cool. But it's not and we don't know what the MCU X-Men are going to look like. I think a lot of the people who grew up, who are making the show, grew up with this anime series, so it's at least will be evocative of it. But one would imagine that the MCU version will be a little less stylized. I mean, these are people who have muscles upon muscles. Like they're not physically capable of being people. But I don't know what kind of presence could happen at the park. I mean, we'll be at the park on that day to see if there's anything. But it may be something that even maybe lives a little bit more in Hollywood land,
Mm-hmm.
as they've done with like Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur.
Mm-hmm.
That's not necessarily as on MCU. I mean, one of the
Mm-hmm.
things that probably blows some more canon focused people is like there's always other universes, right? Like, I mean, even I don't know if you saw the Deadpool and Wolverine trailer, or obviously Loki. Like they're not as there's no sacred timeline as there is in Star Wars. I mean, I remember being at Star Wars Celebration. They're talking about, I want to say it was episode 8, and they're like, well, that's not what really happened. And I was like, well, nothing really, like, this is a movie, like this didn't actually happen. Like, I mean, I know you have your head canon, but it's none of this is real, right? Like, I mean, no disrespect, but it's a story.
Oh no, Star Wars definitely has a very strict, strong canon to it. I've already seen the debates because Batu, the way it's represented in the latest episodes of New Jedi Adventures, clearly it has elements, I guess, that are reflected within the reality of Disneyland, but yet isn't found within Walt Disney World's Batu. So there's already people going, see, clearly Disneyland has the authentic Batu because it's just the way it appears in New Jedi Adventures. So Kyle Oldham coming in and saying, I can't wait to see the 97 X-Men. So I know there's some excitement for it. Next month, it comes on March 20th. Also, next month is the beginning of a D23 15th anniversary celebration.
Yeah.
Yeah,
By
of
the
course.
way, ouch.
I know, right? The only reason it's not ouch for me is because it came around the same time as our son, and he's 15. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay,
By
it's
the
like
way,
a
your
reminder.
son, ouch.
Yeah, I know your nephew is now 15. Uh,
But
but
yeah,
there's
so
go ahead.
it's interesting, and getting a little bit more in the weeds here.
Yeah.
They have updated, as I think part of this, the D23 membership rules that and including something that says they have traditionally made 4 magazines per year, but in the future they may make more, they may make less, which to me seems like
Okay.
a kind of cheat, because like I'm paying for 4, I think. But any case, but what's interesting is that these membership rules go into effect on March 16th, which is a little bit, but just a little bit before the D23 event tickets are supposed to go on sale. So while there's nothing in here that specifically addresses it, you can kind of see that they may be getting their ducks in a row regarding the sale of D23 event tickets. So.
And among the events happening this year, they're going to have a gold member exclusive event at Disney Springs. I've attended events similar to this. It's a really fun little party environment up at Splitsville. So, it's a nice way to gather with some fellow Disney fans. In New Orleans, they're hosting a theatrical screening of Princess and the Frog, coupled with what they're calling the Dreams Do Come True grand finale. And so it's going to include some entertainment, museum access. And the nice thing I found with this one was it was tiered. You could either just simply go to the screening or purchase the screening and, a party aspect to it. Obviously, we've got the D23 Ultimate Disney Fan Event, which, wow, I wish they would come up with a better name for it than that. I'm like, magical merriment, happiest hoopla. Give me something that you've thrown into the machine of Disney creativity. Star Wars Celebration is a fun name. I want something fun like that.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I don't know why they changed the name, but I think it's because there was definitely this vibe that people just call the D23 Expo D23, but okay, like who's that hurting? Like, do you need to for the people that know better? It's now just confusing. I mean, I'm not a branding expert, but I
liked Expo. It felt a nice little kind of throwbacky to the days of Walt, because you think of Disneyland kind of, being explored through the New York World's Fair, which is an expo. You think of Epcot's roots being in an expo. So the notion that Disney was kind of reaching out to their fans through an expo, I don't know, it was kind of nice. So I miss that nomenclature, but I'm adjusting to the Ultimate Disney Fan Event because it just
by the time it comes along, we're not going to have time to say the Ultimate Disney Fan Event. We're going to need something quicker.
I'm going with happiest.
Expo is nice because you could say Expo, and you knew you weren't you were talking about. Or they would say, "Are you doing D23?" Well, they do events as they have announced throughout the year at various locations. It's the definition of a first world problem, but
poor Geo's just trying to keep up. They dropped Expo, Shop Disney's now Disney Store. It's just always changing. By the way, as surrounding that fan event, which is the 9th through the 11th of August, there's also going to be a celebration at Angel Stadium, their Angel Day on August 4th. There's a kickoff. So you can see all that information in the roundup. We'll have the link below. So anything in particular you super pumped about when you look through this celebratory?
I love D23 Expo. If you do, if you give up on doing merchandise and you just go for fun, I think it's pretty cool. There's definitely some operational hiccups that happen, but if you go in just with low expectations it's just fun to be surrounded by Disney people. I'm interested to see how this Brazil event works, and it could be good. The opportunity for them to connect with Disney fans. And I know there's a lot of feedback about, well, they didn't announce enough, or they don't, should have done this or that. I mean, you can play. I mean, part of the fun, I guess, of being a fan is the Monday morning quarterbacking, and that's totally fine. But that being said, it's still fun to watch the game on Sunday, even if you don't agree with what the coach did. And, it's just neat to be, they don't need to do it that way. We saw the Fantastic Four news announced earlier in the week, and it just kind of felt like it was just like a tweet or an Instagram, on social media. They're announcing the cast, and it's just like, it's so much more fun when it's in a room full of fans who lose their mind than just sort of, 8 a.m. tweet. So while I'm really, while that tweet made me a lot more excited for the movie, I don't know, it's just more fun to have these stay. And it's the only thing, Disney, I mean, maybe Apple or somebody, but like Disney's the only company that does this to this extent. Netflix does some stuff, but nobody cares. You don't go to like Peacock Con and just like learn about what's coming to Peacock and NBC and Bravo. Like,
but they have Bravo in fair. They do have BravoCon in fairness.
They do have BravoCon, but it's not a celebration of everything together. It's a specific slice of it.
It is specific.
And I happened to be in Vegas during BravoCon, and I've never seen more things I had no idea what they were talking about than when I was like, they'd be like, "Oh, do you want tickets to go see this person talk?" And I was like, "Who is this? I've never heard of this person." Alex was just at TCA and was giving me the whole like Vanderpump 101. And so it's not a value judgment. There's just a lot of Disney. So I only have time for one corporation in my life, and I'm still behind on Disney stuff. So I'm not judging it. It's just, I can't do everything.
Well, yeah, no, I hear you. Earlier today, I was on the phone with my gal pal, Anita. She's a big Run Disney fan. And when this news hit, as I was telling her, like, you are speaking at a frequency only dogs can hear. Her excitement over the Run Disney merchandise for the Princess Half Marathon was through the roof. This particular event is going to feature Ariel on the 5K, Rapunzel on the 10K, Tiana for the 13, for the half marathon. And then their fairy tale challenge are the sisters. What do you think? You like the merchandise, Ben?
So I'm going to throw an audible here. Your gal pal Anita, which I think is her official name,
yes,
is a big Little Mermaid fan.
Very passionate mermaid fan, yes.
Does she find any irony in her being Ariel being a spokesmodel for a Run Disney race, which I believe requires, what's that word again? Feet.
But look, they picked her in her pink dress from when she does have feet. It's beautiful. It's lovely. And she was so excited because she's going to get a lot of Ariel merchandise in her pink dress, celebrating her favorite, her passion, which is Run Disney. She is a big fan. And yeah. But can I put out a personal plea to anybody who happens to be watching who is a decision maker? Can we have Run Disney merchandise that isn't event related? Because I would love to have like just Disney athletic-y looking characters, but I'm not participating in a half marathon or run event. And so I don't want to buy a 5K shirt if I'm never going to, if I can't do a 5K, I'm not going to do a 5K, but I would love to have shirts of the characters being athletic because I do live an active lifestyle. So I'm just putting it out there, turn Run Disney into a brand a little bit beyond just your events.
That's an excellent idea, like a Run Disney athletic wear line that has nothing to do with necessarily like a specific race. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I get wanting to have something that commemorates a race you worked hard for.
Exactly, totally 100%.
But like, some of us don't want to wake up at 4 a.m, and so we don't participate in Run Disney races. But we still go out for a jog and get the blood moving. So, but it'd be nice to be able to represent your fandom while it's not necessarily tied to a race they didn't participate in.
Yeah, with like little sayings that are, maybe more active oriented, because a lot of times I've seen a couple of items that are just Run Disney, but so many of them are event focused. And I get it. Don't misunderstand. I love, obviously you want something celebrating what you put all this time and effort and energy into achieving. But yeah, I would very much like to see more items for those of us who are active, but not necessarily jumping into the event itself. So yeah. Let's see, Ben, we've got some Lego news.
Well, that's something to build upon. So this is so cute, though.
It's a large set. It's like 2,200 pieces.
I know, but look at all the dwarfs you get. I mean, it's worth it for the dwarfs.
That's what I was thinking. It's 10 minifigs, because you've got the 7 dwarfs, you've got Snow and the prince, and then you've got the Wicked Witch. What's interesting to me is these aren't going kind of on model in the way we saw those Disney 100 minifigures. This is more like Disney is more like Lego in cosplay as it's like kind of fun in that way.
Well, what you should do is, since they look like they're about the same size, you put Snow White on top.
That forced perspective thing.
And then you get the dwarfs on the bottom, so they look bigger. And if you get that, 5 points. I wish they had, like, you could turn, like, the minifig of the hag. You could, like, turn her head, and she'd be like the evil queen.
Okay, can I just say I really like the fact that it comes with the sleeping chamber. Otherwise known in my world is known as a glass casket. But apparently in Lego speak, it's a sleeping chamber.
It's kind of like when Boba Fett's ship got name changed. Like, sometimes it just doesn't look so great on the box.
Right. You have the wishing well in addition to the cottage. You even have one of the doves.
This is perhaps not the best staging for the prince.
What? He looks fine.
He looks like he's leering at Snow White. Like,
wow.
He's like, hey, what? Like, because Snow White can't. You can tell Snow White has no idea he's behind there, and so he's like looking between the bushes, the flower tree, and it's like,
I do not.
I'm gonna wait for you to be asleep, and I'm gonna kiss you.
I'm not. I did not process it that way at all. I like how Grumpy in the image here has a broom and he's trying to sweep away the spider that's up in the attic, as if he cleaned at all, because we know what a mess that cottage was before Snow White showed up and, along with her forest friends, finally cleaned up after those very messy men.
So this is off topic, but you're right. They're very messy.
Yes.
But they can build in very quickly. They can make a really nice sleeping chamber.
Yes, they have a definite skill set.
Like, I remember watching the movie and being like, did they have that ready, or did they build that?
I want to know where they got their carving skills from, because they were typically miners, right? So they're like digging and pickaxing stuff. I don't know what you call that when you use a pickaxe. Is that also digging? But they have these beautifully ornate little beds that their names are carved so beautifully in. And like you say, in a moment flat, they have this amazing glass casket. So they were very skilled in woodworking as well. So
do you think what do you think came first, chicken or egg kind of situation? Their names or their characteristics? It's like the power suggestion where they're like little Sneezy's like walking along. They're like, we're gonna call you Sneezy, and that's all. You just can't lose it.
Start sneezing.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. That's what that works for me. I never thought about it. I'll be honest. That's a funny thought. But I'm gonna go with the characteristic came first, and then they weren't even. By the way, each week on Tuesdays on this Laughing Place channel, Becca, our site manager, and I discuss the latest Disney merchandise. And among the aspects of this show, I have something called the Sensational 7. and I kind of loosely gather up 7 items inspired by the Dwarfs with an overarching theme. So it's like I'll take the fact that it's National Pancake Day, and I'll find a bunch of merchandise that is focused on pancakes within the world of Disney that somehow, some way are connected to Sleepy, Happy, Grumpy, Dopey, Sneezy, Bashful, and Doc, and I get it done.
Very nice.
So
is that the way you normally do it?
Sleepy, Happy, Grumpy, Dopey, Sneezy, Bashful, Doc?
Yeah.
Yes, because that was an interstitial on the Disney Channel. When they were first doing it, they did one of those man on the street at the theme parks. They did a man on the, they would go around, can you name the 7 dwarfs? And this one person said it that way. Sleepy, Happy, Grumpy, Dopey, Sneezy, Bashful, Doc. And I've always said it that way. Oh, hey, Geo coming in asking if there was an 8th dwarf, Carver. Maybe that's who did all that beautiful work. So there you go.
Maybe that's what the live action remakes can't tell us.
The unknown dwarf.
It's like, how the Santa Claus with Tim Allen kind of like explained how the whole Santa Claus mythology worked. Maybe we're finally going to get the answers about, the true, because there's a couple things that have always bothered me. It's not the right word because it doesn't like keep me up at night, but it was like, I would wonder like how in a lot of these Disney movies where there's an evil stepmother, was the dad just that clueless? I mean, like, you marry this woman and she has like an evil chamber underneath her throne room. Like that should be a giveaway.
Where were the warning signs?
Yeah, like I don't know. It's just like how they say kids always hate their step parents because it's like someone new that's getting involved in their family. I mean, it's not always true, but like there's that sort of narrative out there.
Change is hard.
In this case, the kid should have been like, "Hey, Dad,
right.
Something's not right here."
But don't you think it's typically the dynamic is like they like Parent Trap, where she's clearly like one way when she's with Mitch, but very different when it's just her and the kids.
I mean, I maybe buy that with Lady Tremaine. The evil queen, it's hard to imagine like being, not somehow able to hide her sort of evilness. I mean, it's literally in her name. Like, it's like, I wonder, like, it's like, I can imagine, the king is going on a date and like, your name is evil? Okay.
Wait, this is your headcanon? That at some point Snow White's father meets someone and she goes, "Hi, I'm evil queen."
Well, she's not a queen yet. Like, she took his last name.
So, "Hi, I'm evil. If I marry you, I will become evil queen." This is your headcanon?
Yeah, it'd be like, "Hey, I got this really nice mirror. I just want to make sure we have a place for."
Wow. Okay. Apparently, Geo.
Well, we lose Rebecca. Well, so Geo, he wants to know if I can vamp until Rebecca comes back. There she is.
I don't know why I ended up leaving studio, but apparently Geo thinks that there are many questionable parenting decisions made in Disney movies. By the way, our team the other day at LP, we were debating villain songs, but I'm curious, like when you think of Disney villains, like do you have a favorite Disney villain? Like which one is like for you the ultimate? I don't know, like you tell me what classification you want to use, but what
my favorite Disney villain?
Yeah, I'll go with favorite. What
are we including Nelson Peltz?
Disney cartoons. Okay. We'll stick with Disney cartoons. We won't go because it was funny. I got accused of using a cheat code because we were discussing best villain songs, and I said the Imperial March, and they were like, "That's not fair." And I'm like, "Okay, well."
Yeah, that's not fair. But Disney animated villains.
Yes, because I know which one's the scariest to me. So it's not my favorite, but it's the scariest. When I think of like which Disney villain most haunts your nightmares, that's what I'm going to go with. See, for me, it's Madame Medusa. from
Oh,
Rescuers because she's so real to me.
yeah.
Like, I felt like I could accidentally fall into the clutches of somebody like her. Maleficent doesn't feel like something I'm actually going to encounter as I'm in my own universe, whereas she felt so real to me.
Yeah, I guess that didn't bother. Like, it's always a it's going to be a supernatural. Like, it's probably Maleficent. I remember
Okay.
being afraid when I saw. I mean, obviously, depends when you see the movie. When it hits you. But like, I remember, my parents would take me to like kids theater, right? And then at the end, they'd come out for the curtain call, and there was a door by the movie, like an emergency exit door by the screen of our local movie theater. And I was so afraid all the characters were going to come out at the end and do a curtain call, and Maleficent was going to come out and I'd see her in person. Like, I mean, it makes no freaking sense, but like, I
That's
was so
awesome.
worried that like, and she transformed into a dragon. Like, I don't know. To me, she is. I mean, and she definitely has like a sense of charm to her too.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's the one that definitely scared me. And there was a sequence, I would say also, it's not so much the villain, but it's how they present him, the Headless Horseman in Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. Like that, it's even more scary before he shows up. But when he's coming, and it has the thing with the whatever you call those tiger tails, or that used to weird me out when I would see it on like Disney Halloween treat or something.
I miss that. That's one of the things that when Iger talked about opening that vault door and all the things we were going to get on Disney Plus, I was sure that was going to be there, and it didn't make it there. Let's talk about ESPN.
Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun.
Is it JJ Redick? Is that how you say his name?
That's how I say it.
Okay, I just want to make sure because I was looking at it and I'm like, I'm not sure because I would have spelled it with 2 D's like Louis Redick.
Oh, yeah. So I brought this up because it's interesting to me. So, ESPN's a big part of trying to figure out the future of the company. And so whether you are a Disney fan who likes sports, or you're just a Disney fan who wants to make sure the company's healthy to do the stuff you actually like, it's important you keep tabs on necessarily, the X's and O's of the sports, but, see how ESPN's doing. And ESPN got rid of their 2 analysts for their prime NBA analysts as part of the layoffs. Jeff Van Gundy and name's escaping me, but I want to say Mark Jackson. And then they brought in Doris Burke, who was kind of, she's a legendary reporter, but was like doing some games and then brought in Doc Rivers, who had just been let go from his coaching gig. So then the reports were that they got rid of their previous guys because they didn't want to pay them all that money when they thought they might be leaving to go to an NBA team. Well, after like 2.5 seconds at ESPN, Doc Rivers leaves to become the new head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks. I'd like to point out, not faring particularly well while he's there, but it's new. And the question was, this is who's going to be the new lead, who's going to be on the lead NBA team. Mark Brennan is staying. He's the play-by-play. He's Mark Breed. He's the Hall of Fame broadcaster. Lisa Salters is usually on the side replying, but was it just going to be Doris Burke? Well, now they're bringing in JJ Redick, who I think is a fine NBA analyst, but he was kind of on their B team, and it's influential in that ESPN is going out for the renewing their NBA package, and there's lots of talks about how much it's going to cost, what games they're going to get, and we've seen that when the NBA or leagues want to have rights deals, they want their best games to go to folks that have the best broadcasters. Now, TNT, Turner Sports, well, they don't obviously probably not going to get the NBA Finals just because they don't have a broadcast channel. It is well documented that their studio show is leaps and bounds ahead of ESPN. You have Kenny Smith and Charles Barkley, Shaq. I mean, it's just a great chemistry. It's a lot of fun. I don't watch a lot of NBA, but I do watch, the college, and they do a lot of they do the same thing for college basketball tournament, March Madness, and it's just a lot of fun. They put fun at each other. A little less. I mean, they still do the X's and O's things, but it's a little less sort of dramatic as I think ESPN's can come across as, despite the fact that the NBA countdown host went to my high school. But so it's interesting to see, and this, I don't think this is a knock on Doris Burke, who, some people could perceive as, but it's just really getting a 3-man booth and ready so that they can show their commitment to having an A-list broadcasting team for the NBA as we enter into, in the next month or so, the rights negotiations, which are kind of going to be a mess, right? It's been well documented. NBA wants a lot more money, and ESPN has a lot less money. So, I mean, I think they're going to have to pay more, but how much can they pay? If this was done 3 years ago, the NBA would be making a lot more money. But I think they're going to have to split up their package in different ways in order to meet the target, because a lot of these leagues, the players get a percentage of basketball revenue. So the salary cap is determined by how much money the league makes, and the league makes most of their money through these TV deals. So not only is the owners trying to get that number higher, but the players are trying to get that number higher. And with the collapse of the regional sports networks, they're going to have to find ways to make more money in order to keep those levels where they're at or beyond that.
So if you want to get a taste of this new NBA team, you can find that on ABC February 24th. They're going to make their debut with the Celtics-Knicks game. So check it out. See the new team. Give them a chance. I thought it'd be
better if they made their debut with a Milwaukee Bucks game, but that's just...
Yeah. It takes a little bit for a team. I mean, it is hard when you get tossed in with some new voices. So, I'm going to have to give it a check. Much like you were saying, my NBA knowledge tends to come from Shaq and Kenny and Charles and them talking about it. So that's kind of my extent when it comes to my NBA.
Yeah. I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole, but, it's funny because ESPN has obviously an NFL countdown show, an NBA countdown show, and College Game Day. And College Game Day is leaps and bounds ahead of anyone else's college kickoff show, right?
Yeah.
But so they know how to do it, but they don't seem to have cracked the nut on how to figure out how to do the NBA or even NFL. I know Ryan Clark's deal just expired.
No.
And I think he did not necessarily on the countdown show, but I mean, when he had to handle the DeMar Hamlin situation, he really proved his mettle as a broadcaster, let alone an analyst. So, it seems like that show is being remade every year, and it's not obviously as important as the game itself, but it does kind of show, your ability to produce sports content, and ESPN should be able to produce great sports content regardless of what the sport is.
It's interesting. ESPN used to have a stranglehold on me. No lie. I'd turn them on and they'd be on my TV from beginning of the day until end of night. And now I go to what the team we were talking about over at TNT for my NBA. I'm on the NFL Network before Sunday watching Rich Eisen and Kurt Warner and that team. And then when it comes to college basketball, Ryan Russillo's podcast, because I'm a big fan of Ryan. And so, it's been interesting for me the way that over the years, my sports media consumption, has really changed. Because I'm not often on ESPN outside of kind of game time. Whereas before it was more of, I was always there. Almost game time was almost the time I wasn't there, just because the sports I tended to watch weren't necessarily, being on ESPN at the time. So,
and it's interesting though, because, there was a time when there was all those talking head shows on ESPN and, and they still obviously put some effort into that, but you're seeing that it matters less in a commodity way. Less people are just turning on a channel to have the new TV on. There's plenty of stuff that you can have on streaming.
Yeah.
And sports bars obviously have, ESPN on 24/7.
Exactly. That's when I tend to see it the most, is when I'm traveling, for sure.
But now it's the games that matter, right? I mean, with not even just with sports betting, but just, when that's the actual asset. The rest of the stuff was just shoulder programming, and they put focus on it because they can make the game. They can show the game, but then they have more control and they can get more creative on the shoulder programming. But now the shoulder programming doesn't matter nearly as much as just making sure your games are top notch. And that's why some people would think that Stephen A. Smith would be the highest paid person at ESPN. He's not. It's Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, because that's where the money is these days. In the actual Monday Night Football game.
Oh, speaking of NFL, we just had the Super Bowl, and it was CBS, and so their cable sister Nickelodeon had their rendition of Super Bowl coverage. You had SpongeBob, you had the Nickelodeon slime. When the Super Bowl finds its way back to ABC, as a Disney fan, do you want to see, do you hope to see Disney embraces a similar idea? I mean, I know we saw it this year with that amazing, Toy Story-ified a football game. And
and they had the Big City Greens hockey game, which is coming back. I don't know that I want it for the Super Bowl.
Okay.
I think there's something uniting. I mean, something uniting about the Super Bowl itself. And I want to check it out, but I don't want to miss the main broadcast for the Super Bowl.
Okay.
I mean, I guess offering it as an option doesn't hurt anyone, but I would much rather see it for, a Monday Night Football game, or, something where I'm not waiting to make sure the commercials and the trailers, because when Disney has the Super Bowl, there's going to be so much sweet synergy during the main broadcast that I'm going to want to see that, I'm not going to want to miss that for, having Toy Story characters, kick the field goal.
Gio would like to see the Muppets cover a game. I'm torn on the issue. I see the one thing I will say is I would love to see a throwback to those over the top Disney spectaculars we used to get at halftime.
Me too. Can I give you my Disney fan perspective on the Taylor Swift controversies?
Okay, I don't know what the controversy is, but okay.
Okay, what controversy might be? But people were complaining about how the network showed Taylor Swift, so many times per game, and I think it ended up being 53 seconds during the Super Bowl. But part of what I love about, especially Monday Night Football, is it was always something more than just the game. It was a cultural moment, right? The Beatles could show up, right? You just didn't know what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what makes, you don't get that in baseball. It's a special thing for big football games. Mm-hmm. And I think, you don't want to distract from the game itself, but there's plenty of times when there's, they're not actually running, scrimmage play.
Right.
And, you can go, say, hey, look, here's the celebrities in attendance, or, we're going to have these guys in the booth, maybe not for the Super Bowl itself, but there's, you don't need to, that's part of the fun of Monday Night Football. And so I guess that's the way I grew up with, they would suddenly have just, some random singer, or the president would be in the booth, or what have you. So I don't know what the difference is between them and Taylor Swift that makes people lose their mind, but.
Yeah, I kind of miss that bit of silly synergy that we used to get, because it was always an awkward shoehorn in of something. They would come up with some very creative yet awkward transition into talking about whatever the latest thing was on the network, right? They would have the celebrity there in the booth, and oftentimes it was you knew the celebrity didn't really watch the sport or anything. They were just there to, it was fun though. They'd figure out some way to share some story about sports from their youth. Yeah, no, I agree with you. It was a delightful, simple moment. In regards to direct-to-consumer sports, we had a big announcement come in the past few days, and a joint streaming venture. I'll let you talk a little bit about it, and then kind of what's come from that.
It's just interesting because when this was announced, people, I weren't sure, they didn't know what it really was and how it competed with what Disney already has or is planning on rolling out. So to simplify it, you obviously have Hulu with live sports, Jalen Hulu has live sports and CNN and all that stuff, right? It's just basically your cable bundle streaming. Then they've announced that in next August 2025, they're going to launch a direct-to-consumer ESPN service, which will have all sorts of interactive widgets and, really their marquee digital project from a sports perspective. What this is, it's basically a cable package, but just for sports channels or channels that frequently show sports like ABC, Fox, TBS, TNT, etc. So it's essentially a skinny bundle of channels that the idea would be if you are a sports fan who doesn't pay for cable because he can watch the shows on Hulu or she can watch the shows on Netflix or what have you, but you still want to have live sports, you could get this to augment, what other streaming platforms you have, and they're going to bundle it with Max and Disney Plus and Hulu and things like that. So it's not as like game changing as, at least on the surface, until we see if people actually take it up, as it's basically just a skinny cable bundle. But today we got the news that the Department of Justice is going to be looking at this. It was always going to be that the Department of Justice was going to look at it because it's competitors working together on a project. Although that being said, it's not dissimilar from when a lot of the networks joined together to create Hulu. So, there's a precedent there, but, I don't know what is going to come of it. And there's some people that say that, these companies came together to create this joint venture without, ever really thinking they're going to even be able to launch it, but just to show that, to kind of rattle the cage a little bit and see how things play out. Because as we talked earlier, sports rights are getting more expensive, but cable subscribers are decreasing. Therefore, you're really compressing the margins on that business. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. As a Disney fan, I have the Disney bundle, but if I want to have sports, it's not everything. It just, if I want to watch a CBS football game, it won't be on the service. But it's got a fair amount of sort of the marquee sports. We'll have the World Series. Sometimes they'll have the Super Bowl, the NBA Finals. It will have, World Series, NBA Finals, and the Stanley Cup Finals as well. So, but I don't know if it's enough for people to adopt it because it's not in everything. I think there's this desire to create like a sports marketplace where you can just kind of pick and choose or a la carte or even get kind of all the sports in one spot, as opposed to having subscribed to Peacock, to ESPN Plus or whatever to get everything. So it'll be interesting to see how this rolls out. It's supposed to launch this fall, but there's a lot more steps to come.
What was particularly interesting to me was the Wall Street Journal report that indicated some of the leagues seemed to have been blindsided. That was the phrase they used, blindsided by the news, and that seemed to kind of support some of the industry discussion that this was maybe meant to kind of, as you say, rattle the cage just a little bit in regards to negotiating the costs of broadcast.
And our sources kind of counteracted that with saying, like, of course you were blindsided because we had to sign non-disclosure agreements, so we can't tell you we're going to do this until we tell you we're going to do this.
Okay.
The way they're doing it is it's basically just a cable bundle. It's kind of, I think the NFL has kind of publicly, or at least reportedly, gone through their contracts to see, how they can stop it. But, they license their content to these channels, and they sell these channels through YouTube TV as we speak. This is just selling a smaller package of these channels. So that's why this is not a standalone product. This is basically just 12 channels instead of 40 channels or whatever, in your typical Hulu bundle these days, or YouTube TV bundle. So there's a lot that's going to have to change. And this is all going down against the backdrop of the reports that Disney's looking at having ESPN buy into, a marginal stake in ESPN. So how does that impact negotiations? What's the future? There's a lot of smart people out there that cover sports media, and you get a lot of different takes on it. And I don't know that we even really know until this all kind of settles. We see how consumers react to all these different things. But it's Amazon's getting a playoff NFL game next year, exclusive playoff NFL game, and I think people are getting a little tired of hunting for these things.
Yeah.
And the NFL is king. I mean, if anyone can make it work, it's the NFL. But how many different packages do you need to get in order to get all the national baseball games? I mean, they're on Peacock. They had to run on Facebook. They're on ESPN. They're on TBS. It's just, it's hard to even know. And
well, for me, Major League Baseball, the biggest challenge for me was the odd ruling regarding what was considered in market games. As somebody who was an Angel fan living in Central Florida, even though Tampa Bay was 2 hours or more away, I was very challenged to watch them. I would pretty much have to go to Tampa Bay in order to see the Angels when they were in Florida, because Orlando was considered in market, so I couldn't.
In market, even though you don't have the Tampa stations. Right.
Exactly. And so it was it was very frustrating. And I know for Dodger fans, some of the limitations regarding, where those games ended up being broadcast. I've in Ohio, I know Anita has struggled a bit with, my gal pal Anita has struggled a bit staying on top of her fandom with a similar what's been decided as in market. So what's on cable versus kind of broadcast. So yeah, it's become complicated. So we'll see how all of this settles out. But we're going to end with some big news that's so sweet and adorably cute. And that is, a new baby has appeared on the Savannah at Animal Kingdom, baby Cora.
So
a 312-pound bundle of joy, I think, or maybe 21. Let me look. Did I get it right? Such a lightweight. Yeah, 312. A little 312 bundle of joy, born to Nadira, who was also born at Animal Kingdom. So
this is making me feel old again. Babies having babies. I remember when my mother was born.
You remember Nadira, huh? And Animal Kingdom is hopeful for 2 more births in 2025, because gestation period for elephant about 22 months. So yeah. And since we're talking about the elephants, I wanted to, I like how he's coming in here with spelled with a C to avoid a copyright from Nickelodeon. So there you go. I want to tell everybody about something that we as Laughing Place, we did like a kind of a team building outing down in Disney World. And among it, we got a taste of the Caring for Giants tour. This is a $39 per person. It's often available kind of day of. So, if you're looking for something to do at Animal Kingdom, prolong your day a little bit, it's for families. So I want to say the youngest age is 4. That they allow, but you get to take a behind the scenes look at how they care for the elephants. You get to go to you can see in this picture, see how this Kilimanjaro safari vehicle is off in the distance. Yeah, you're over on the other side. So you get to see where they're brought in the evening, where they're fed, where they're cared for. And then you get to walk out to this beautiful viewing area overlooking the savannah. You can watch those safari trucks go by. So it's not a very long tour. So it doesn't take a lot of your day. Really, really great, I think, to introduce especially younger kids who are passionate about animals. A nice way to introduce them to the realities of the zoo aspect of taking care of animals over there at Animal Kingdom. So conservation efforts. We had fun. I liked it. You remember it, Ben? Were you with?
Yeah, I've actually done it twice. And it's the other thing that's neat is you get to really have one-on-one time with an animal program's cast member. Mm-hmm. So you get time to ask those questions that not that the safari drivers don't know them, but you don't have, you're kind of moving along.
Yep.
And so, you really can get to know the elephants. They can tell you about each elephant's personality and, what it's like to work there. And I just think that's really was a special, as Disney fans, I think, we like to kind of get to know a little bit behind the magic.
Mm-hmm.
And, this is not something where it's going to ruin the magic because it's part of the magic. But like, this isn't like, getting a backstage tour where you're seeing something you shouldn't see. But it's a backstage tour where it almost makes you appreciate the work that goes into what's needed to support these magnificent creatures in an environment like Kilimanjaro Safaris. And, there's one thing, you cannot say that these guys, these animal programs cast members love those animals.
Yes.
And, I have a friend who works in animal programs, and one of the animals she cared for had passed away of natural causes, and it was just heartbroken, and it was put on Facebook, and it's I can't even imagine, but that's and they have a lot of different sort of backstage tours you can take with Animal Kingdom, but I really you're right about how this elephant one it's kind of like a perfect if you don't want it to kind of eat up all of your Animal Kingdom day. It's like an hour. You meet at near Kilimanjaro Safaris. They take you back there. You get your moment, and then you still have the full day to enjoy at the park.
Exactly. So. No, it's a beautiful, beautiful add-on, and you're only about 80 to 100 feet away from these magnificent mammals, and you can stand and get a beautiful family picture with them, and it just gives you a different perspective on the savannah, the size of the savannah, and the scope of the care for these beautiful, beautiful giants. So yeah, just wanted to let everybody know about that in light of the baby elephant Cora making her debut in the savannah.
Sweet little baby.
So cute. Oh man.
She's really cute.
I love baby elephants because they seem so little, and yet in reality, like 312 pounds. It's like, yeah, okay.
And they love their mothers so much that it's just like, look here, like she just wants to be with her. It's so adorable.
So that's the latest and greatest happening over at Laughing Place. Our team is constantly providing you with news and information about what's happening under that Disney umbrella, which is so big and vast.
So I'd like to give everyone a little bit of what to look for tomorrow.
Okay.
So tomorrow, Mac will be doing a walk and talk over at the Magic Kingdom, and I know there's a lot of exciting stuff happening with Tiana's Bayou Adventure. We now know it's opening in the summer. So it seems like every day there's like a new little treat where you can kind of see peering over the wall. So we're excited about that. And then over the weekend, we have Mike is attending an animation showcase with as we get closer to award season. In fact, that night, Tony will also be covering the Annie Awards from which is like the Oscars of animation. So it includes TV animation, feature film animation, and even animation used in live action projects through visual effects and things like that. So there's always a lot happening around Disney, and we're also sort of continuously monitoring the proxy battle and seeing how that all shapes out. So I'm sure I'll have a lot more commentary on that as we get closer to April 3rd.
Very, very cool. So if you haven't given us a like and you've enjoyed yourselves, please give us a like. It helps other people find us. If you want to stay on top of when we have live streams, hit subscribe. You'll get notified when we go live. Like he said, tomorrow we'll be strolling around Magic Kingdom, sharing the sights and sounds of what's happening there. And for the latest breaking news, you can follow us on Twitter. That's laughing_place. I like to say if it moves the needle of the Disney stock price, we've talked about it. So be sure to give a follow over there on X. I'm sorry, I said Twitter. Over on X.
And Disney stock not doing too shabby. 112 beating the market. So
Yep. There you go. Well, we will see you all real soon. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.